Hi, this is James Gordon October Live here with the second review in the October Terror series. Now, originally, I was going to review Dark Forces, this anthology collection, which which was a big hit back in the 80s, and this was apparently Clive Barker's inspiration to write his horror collection of short stories, Books of Blood, after reading this. However, after I read 12 stories of this anthology, this thing was killing my mood for the love of Halloween because the stories are terrible in this anthology. They're boring as hell. They're not even scary at times. There's even some stories that don't even feel like horror stories at all. And this thing was really dragging on. Just trying to get through this was a chore to get through some of the stories, and I was really not liking any of them. And there's a typo error, which the editor mistakens the biography of who was it? Mistakens the biography of Robert Bloch with who's the other guy? With Clifford D. With Clifford D. Smark. He mixed the two anthologies, the two biographies up, saying that Robert Bloch is from Chicago and Clifford is from the farm area of the United States, which is incorrect. And after the 12th story, I said, screw this thing. I'm done with this. So I'm going to review probably the best known story out of this anthology, Stephen King's The Mist. As I have never read the shorts, I've never read the novelette or short story before. I've only seen the movie of the same name, which I absolutely hated the film, which I'll explain later on in my review why. But I thought, well, I'm gonna review this last story because that's the most known one, and that probably probably the better choice than trying to finish this in terrible anthology. This thing is the absolute worst. I don't know how this thing became a hit, but the stories are awful. The editor really doesn't know the difference between what's horror and what isn't. It did an absolute terrible job. This is one of the worst anthologies I ever read ever. And I'll save a rant for how bad this is for my worst and best books I read of this year. I'll save it for that. But anyway, I'm gonna get on to Stephen King's The Mist, which was first published in this anthology, Dark Forces by Viking in 1980. Then it was republished in Skeleton Crew in 1985. Then it was then published as a novelette in 2007 to tie in with the film of the same name. Uh, the story was definitely decent. It had some things I like with it, some things I didn't like with it. However, despite the fact it has one character I absolutely cannot stand in the story, at least the story has a better ending than the film, which I'll explain later on in my review. Alright, on to the review, and spoiler alert, as I will give away crucial details within the story. Plot: in Bridgeton, Maine is hit with one of the worst thunderstorms in history. David takes his 5-year-old son Billy and his wife Steph downstairs when the storm gets worse. Taking what supplies he can before the storm rages over his house, hearing the howling wind, heavy downpour, and roaring thunder. Billy is scared while Steph tries to comfort him. During the night, David has a dream of God walking over the lake next to his house, and this massive storm of purple and white clouds and lightning falls behind him while covering the ground in a thick layer of mist. The following morning, David, his wife, and son inspect the damage to their house along with the boathouse that has been smashed by a fallen tree. Power is also out with some power lines knocked over with live wires buzzing loudly as David warns Billy not to get too close, while a thick layer of mist is floating above the lake and is slowly moving towards them. His next door neighbor, Brenton Norton, who David doesn't really like, is having a bad day. Norton is trying to cut a tree down that's blocking his driveway while cursing up a storm. David can't help but grin. Steph makes a shopping list for David to get supplies as Billy goes to visit a friend. David gets a chainsaw and begins cutting down fallen trees. A town local, Bill Gioski, visits and talks with them. Bill believes the military is doing something close by to the town as they own land that's fenced off, and the locals hear some sort of experiment called Project Arrowhead, but nobody knows what they're really doing, just rumors. After cutting enough trees to clear a path, David goes to check on his neighbor Norton, who's frustrated and swearing up a storm as his prized dark blue 1960 Ford Thunderbird has been crushed by a fallen tree. Feeling bad, David offers Norton a lift into town to pick up supplies at the local supermarket. Norton accepts the offer as Billy comes along, leaving Steph behind at home. Upon reaching the supermarket, many locals are getting groceries. One of them is old Mrs. Carney, who runs a used antique and junk store. However, she is heavily religious and deemed a crackpot by locals. David and Norton begin getting what they need as the lineup builds up. David tries calling his wife, but the phone lines are down. Then, a few more people enter the store, including some military men. Suddenly, an earthquake happens, causing people to panic and flee. Then, a thick layer of fog rolls in, blocking out the sky, causing it to be dark. People watch close by to the windows and witness one of the locals scream in terror, with a few stating they saw something in the fog. David takes his son away from the window and sits with him in the aisle for a few moments till he calms down. Then a foul odor begins coming through the air vents. David goes to shut off the generator as something is clogging it. A beggar Norm goes outside through the back loading door to try and fix it. David tries warning him along with another store employee, Jim, and the manager, Ollie Weeks, that something is out in the fog, but refuse to listen to him. Turning on the generator, Norm tries crawling through the loading door, but is attacked by large tentacles. They wrap around him as the large suckers begin sucking out blood and tearing Norm's limbs off. David and the others try to save him, but it's no use as the tentacles take Norm outside. They close the loading door, slicing off one of the tentacles as it thrashes around. After hours of waiting, followed by people arguing what to do next, along with Mrs. McCarmody, biblical nonsense, Norton and a few others plan to leave the store, believing this whole event is nothing more than a natural disaster. David and the others try warning Norton, but refuses to listen. David then asks him to tie a rope around his waist to see if he can make it past 300 feet. Norton refuses, but another person agrees to do it. Leaving the store as everything seems fine at first, but suddenly the rope is violently pulled out of David's hands, burning them as people freak out. While Mrs. McCartney warns everyone the end of days is near, David tries pulling back on the rope only to find the man who tied it around his waist is now gone and is covered in blood. After that, David forms a group with the others he knows as Mrs. Amanda gives Ollie a gun. During the night, large insects begin crawling on the store windows, then a bird-like creature breaks through the window, causing more to fly inside and attack people. Using blowtorches and anything else as weapons, David and a few others kill both the large bugs and bird-like creatures. Around 4 in the morning, Ollie awakens David and asks for his help. He brings him back to the storage room, where he finds the 3 military men dead as they have hung themselves. To prevent another panic, David and Ollie hide the bodies while discussing that what's happening is something to do with Project Arrowhead, believing these creatures are from another dimension. David tries going outside into the building next door, a pharmacy, to get supplies and help an older woman who's been injured during the attack last night. However, Ollie and David's group are concerned about Mrs. McCarty. He is now getting followers and fears she'll cause more problems if they don't get out of the supermarket soon. Upon leaving and entering inside the pharmacy, they find a few dead bodies wrapped up in webs. David realizes there are spiders inside and orders everyone out, but Mark and a few others are attacked. David and the rest barely make it back as Mrs. Carney gains more followers, causing further tension between the two sides in the store. With options running out, David and the remaining others plan to leave, but Mrs. Carney and her followers refuse to let them out as she wants to sacrifice Billy and Amanda to God. As the crowd goes to attack them, Ollie shoots Mrs. McCartney, killing her, but not before saying her final words, "You will die out there." Aiming the gun at her followers, they stay back as David and the others run out. Ollie is picked up by a large claw, slicing open his guts as they spill out into the parking lot. David carries his son to his scout as only a few make it. David tries to reach his wife, but the road is blocked by fallen trees, forcing him to go a different route. Unsure the fate of the world or if this will end, David pulls over to rest while he tries turning the radio knob and hears the word Halford. Believing there is still hope out there, he rests and plans to reach Halford in the following morning. The Mist is a decent horror story filled with many scary scenes along with gore and terrifying creatures from another dimension. While heavily detailed, as I like the setting of the supermarket mixed with the thick fog, creating a very creepy and uneasy vibe throughout the story. There are moments I really liked in this story. I only wish there could have added more to it. While there is no backstory to where the creatures came from, I'm fine with that as it makes the story more interesting and mysterious. The film added a little backstory of Project Arrowhead, which I didn't like. I liked more mysterious than having some questions answered. While I felt some characters weren't fleshed out well than others, however, what I didn't like with most of them was how characters would argue over stupid things, cause fights over beliefs, differences over each other, and just create more problems than trying to work together. David, I felt, could be somewhat likable and a jerk at times. Same could be said for the other half of the characters, while the rest were either okay or not likable. But the one character I hated the most throughout this story was Mrs. McCarthy, a crazed Bible thumper who just annoyed the living hell out of me. Why would half the people decide to join someone they dislike the most and have labeled this person as nothing but trouble, only cause more problems than solve anything? As if dealing the creatures from another world wasn't bad enough, King just had to throw in a Bible thumper in the mix. However, I was very happy when she got shot. If King had cut this one person out of the story, fleshed out the rest of the characters by giving them more personality, making them more likable and interesting than jerks, along with adding more scenes of carnage and more creatures with David and the others struggling to fight them, even having characters leave the Sumark and visit other places would have made this a lot better, too. The one thing I'm very thankful for this novelette is its ending. It isn't dark like the terrible 2000 film of the same name, which really pissed me off. The ending in this story just leaves me with more questions than answers, but I'll take it over the terrible film ending that just made my blood boil. Overall, The Mist is a decent short horror story worth reading. Don't bother with the film. Stick with the short story. It has its flaws, but at least you'll enjoy it. And that's it for the review today. This was unexpected. I was planning to get this done and review all the stories in here, but as I said, they're terrible. There's just... The first 12 stories are just awful, and I don't feel like reading the rest of them. I was getting bored with them. They were not interesting. Some of them weren't even scary. Like, for example, I'll just mention one right now, which I felt was not scary at all. The Enemy by Isaac Basha Stainer. This story is about a guy that basically gets on a ship to escape the outbreak of War II and is basically treated like shit from everyone on the ship and barely survives the journey to New York and basically has to like scavenge for food, and there's like times where he has to fight people. And then when he's explaining this to his friends, someone called him this word, and basically the word translates to monster. I thought, what the hell does this have to do with horror? Like, I didn't get it. And there's just a bunch of other stories. Another one I'll just mention off here quickly. The Late Shift by Dennis Ench. It's basically about this company that kills people and basically turns them into zombies and then sends them to work like corner stores and to do like late shifts. That way people don't have to work. It was such bullshit. So I said, screw it. I'll just go to the last story, The Mist, which was probably the most decent story out of this entire anthology because it is terrible. Anyway, enough of that. I'll save the Dark Forces rant for another day. But anyway, The Mist was at least the decent story out on the anthology. It had moments I liked. It was actually scary. There was some really creepy and scary scenes in it. I really liked the creatures in the story. Wish there could have been more of them, of course. But overall, the story was a lot more fun. Sure, it had its flaws, but it at least was more fun. The things I did not like the story was I really felt almost all the characters were kind of jerks to each other. Like it's like there was no likable characters. You get just people just telling each other off, starting fights over stupid things, and just arguing over the most pointless things. I thought, stop fighting, work together. You're just lowering your chances of surviving this disaster than working together. And there was one point in the story which I actually wondered if the film was similar, or they just added that into the film. It turns out it kind of is. It's the part where David wants to show Norton what's going on, and he literally tries pulling him into the storage room to see this tentacle, and he refuses to believe him. I thought, pick up the tentacle and show people if you want to show them what's going on. The tentacle, yes, after it gets sliced in half by the loading door, it thrashes around for a bit, then it stops moving. But David just tries pulling someone to show him what's going on. They get into this stupid fight. I thought, this is just annoying. Just pick the tentacle up and show them. I didn't get why you have to do that. And then there's another part where David's punching a guy for letting the guy out. It's like, oh, you should have listened to me. It's your fault that your friend's dead or something. I thought, and punching him is the best way to resolve this, really. Oh, just the characters arguing, just not sure what to do, and the Mrs. McCartney character, I absolutely fucking hated her. She's just really annoying. Now in the film, she's really annoying, but in the book, yeah, she is annoying. But I really felt this is a character that should not have been in the story. Like Kane has such a great idea of, okay, a bunch of people are trapped in the supermarket when a fog rolls in and these creatures from another dimension come out and start attacking people. That's a great idea. But why add a Bible thumper to the mix? It just makes it worse. I really didn't like it. And oh yeah, and later on in the story, the people decide let's join this person. I just hated that. I just thought it was like really stupid and just made the situation more worse than it already was. But at least this story does not have the fucking awful ending that pissed me off in the movie. I remember when I saw the trailer for The Mist back in, what was it, 2000? Yeah, 2007. I was like, ooh, this looks really cool and stuff, and I really liked the idea of it. So I didn't go to see this in the movie when it came out in the theaters. I actually waited till it came out on DVD and I got it. And when I watched the movie, the ending pissed me off. Just I thought, what the hell? Like, this is the best ending you can come up with for this film, really? After after the father, the son, and the rest of the characters, they barely make it out of the supermarket after dealing with the creatures and Mrs. McCarthy's biblical bullshit. After all they've been through, they run out of gas. They don't know what's going to happen, so the father decides kill his son, kill the other people, leaving him to suffer, and then a few moments later, the military shows up. What the actual fuck? It's the most stupidest bullshit ending I have ever seen, and it just pissed me off. I was so angry with this movie. I pressed the stop button, took the DVD out of the DVD player, put it back in the case, and threw the movie in the fucking garbage where it belonged because I was never gonna watch The Mist again after that fucking ending pissed me off. It is bullshit. Stephen Kane, I'm a fan of your work, but I'm sorry, but you and the director deserve a punch in the face for that horrible ending. And why would you agree to that? That is absolutely terrible. The original ending in the story is a lot better because you don't know the fate of the characters, but at least there's a glimmer of hope that maybe they'll find salvation by going to this place, and they'll find survivors. Maybe he'll reunite with his wife, or maybe it's a safe area. We don't know that, but that's what I like about the original ending because there's hope at least. The film just this thing comes out of nowhere, and it's like, what the hell? I know some people like dark, demented endings, like for example, John Carpenter's The Thing, where it's not the happy ending where the characters are going to get rescued. Their fate is left unknown as the two characters are just sitting next to each other while out in the freezing cold, not sure of who's human, who's the Thing. You don't know their fate is, but that ending works because that creates this whole mystery and makes it more intriguing. But the Mist ending is just bullshit. It's stupid. Oh, okay. After all they've been through, let's just throw in this dark ending, cause why not? It's terrible. I really wish they had an alternate ending. Like, why would you just end the film with a really bleak ending? It's just not right. And actually, I remember this on YouTube. Someone made an alternate ending where the father doesn't kill his son. He just steps out of his vehicle, and then when the military shows up, he begins crying. It's like, it's over. It's finally over. And then the others are looking out the scout, and that would have been a better ending. But nope, they had to throw in this fucking stupid bleak ending. Ugh, I hated it. I kind of wish the Mist would get kind of a remake because I feel it's like the story is great and it's got so much opportunity with it. I feel that could be done a lot better if it was remade, like adding more to the story, more creatures and stuff. And please cut out Mrs. McCarthy from the story if this story ever gets made into a remake. Just cut this character out. We don't need biblical Bible thumpers in horror stories. They don't work. They just cause more problems than solve anything, and it just makes the story more it's just more unpleasant to either read or watch. Just cut this character out. Just get rid of her and put something else instead, and you'll have a lot better story if the Mist was ever to get remade. I know that apparently they tried to do a TV series in the Mist, and that flopped. I guess it went in a very different direction. I don't know much about it, but yeah, if this story ever gets remade into another film, just get rid of Mrs. McCarthy, get rid of the stupid melodrama, and do not go for a bleak ending at all. Just leave it with a mysterious ending or a happy ending. That will make it a lot better. But at least the short story is decent. I definitely enjoyed it, and I've found out that apparently this short story was the inspiration for two hit video games. The Silent Hill series and Half-Life were the inspiration from The Mist, so something good to come out of it. So yeah, so I like I like The Mist. It was the story was a lot better. The film, fuck it, it's not worth seeing if you ask me. So this thing I am going to get rid of because I don't want it. I am not going to bother reading Dark Forces again. It's fucking terrible. So I got another horror anthology picked out, and I'm hoping that one will be a lot better. And I'm going to get started on the next horror book I picked out as well. Alright, that's our review today. Hope you enjoyed it, and please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my Facebook group and YouTube channel, Tor Library, place you can post and review fiction. Until then, I'll catch you later.